It's strange. Everyone around you is laughing, having a good time, and you're just sitting there, watching. Not sad, not angry, just can't relate. And the weird part? It didn't used to be like this. There was a time when you could sit in a room full of people and actually feel part of it. But something shifted, quietly, without you choosing it. And now you find yourself in the middle of a crowded room, feeling like you're watching it all through glass. Today I want to talk about that, because nobody really explains what this phase is or why it happens, or what it actually means. There's a phase, and it starts so gradually you almost don't notice it, where your brain begins working differently. You start seeing patterns in things that other people walk right past. You start noticing that a lot of conversations follow the same script. Someone says something, everyone laughs on cue, someone changes the subject, everyone follows. And you start to see the pattern underneath the conversation. And once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. It's like someone told you how a magic trick works. You can still watch the trick, but it'll never feel magical again. This isn't about being smarter than anyone. Let's be clear about that. It's about becoming aware, and awareness, once it wakes up, doesn't go back to sleep. It just keeps noticing, keeps analyzing, keeps asking why. And that's when something starts to change in how you experience other people. Not what you think of them, but how it feels to be around them. Because being around people starts to require energy more than it used to. Let me paint a picture you might recognize. You're sitting in a group, everyone's talking, and you're doing everything right. You're nodding, laughing at the right times, responding when asked. But inside, you're somewhere else entirely. The conversations feel shallow. Not because the people are bad, not because you judge them, but because something in you is hungry for depth, and the small talk just doesn't reach it. You want to talk about things that actually matter, about why people are the way they are, about the strange beauty of being alive and not quite understanding it, about the thoughts that keep you up at 3 a.m. But most conversations don't go there, they stay on the surface. And you've learned slowly to stay on the surface too, because every time you tried to go deeper, you could see the other person getting uncomfortable, looking for the exit. So you learned to wear a mask. Not a dramatic one, a polite one. The kind that nods and laughs and says, "Yeah, totally," while a completely different conversation is happening inside your head. Here's what nobody talks about. Performing normality is exhausting. When you have to constantly calculate what's okay to say, what will land weird, how much to share, when to pull back, your brain is working overtime just to appear relaxed. You go home after social events, even the ones that went fine, and you feel drained in a way that's hard to explain. Like you ran a marathon while standing still. And the silence of being alone, that should feel like nothing, actually feels like relief. Like finally putting down something heavy that you'd been carrying all day without realizing it. And I think this is the part that makes people feel most confused. Because you actually like people. You're not antisocial. You care deeply about the right people. You just can't seem to make the surface version of socializing feel worth the cost anymore. But then the guilt comes. And this is the cruelest part of this whole thing. Because you start to wonder, is something wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal? Why does this have to feel so hard? You scroll through social media and you see everyone seeming to fit in effortlessly. Everyone seems to have the friend group, the easy laughter, the connection. And you wonder what they have that you don't. But here's the truth that took me a long time to understand. You were never comparing yourself fairly. Because what you're seeing on the outside of other people is their performance too. Everyone is performing to some degree. You're just more aware of it. The difference is, you notice it. And noticing is not a flaw. It's not a disease. It's not something to fix. It's just what happens when a mind becomes more awake than the world around it has room for. So let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain. Because there's a real psychological explanation for all of this. And understanding it changes how you see yourself. Psychologists call this pattern overactivation in highly aware minds. Your brain doesn't just process what's in front of it, it processes what could be, what's underneath, what it means, and what it connects to. All at the same time, simultaneously. That's why social situations drain you more than they drain others. You're not just having a conversation, you're running 10 conversations simultaneously, 1 out loud and 9 in your head. There's also something called the burden of awareness. The idea that seeing more of reality than other people can isolate you from them. Because you can't unsee what you see, and you can't always find the words to share what you've noticed. And the hardest thing is knowing that the gap isn't anyone's fault. The loneliness that comes from this is a specific type. It's not the loneliness of having no one. You might have people around you constantly. It's the loneliness of not being truly known, of having a rich, complex inner world, and almost no one to share it with. You might have had a conversation, maybe once, maybe twice in your life, where someone actually matched your depth, where you didn't have to simplify yourself, where you could be fully honest about what you think and feel and wonder about. And you probably still remember that conversation. That's what you're actually looking for. Not more people, better moments. Rarer, deeper, more honest ones. And maybe you haven't found many of those moments yet. Maybe the right people are still somewhere ahead of you. That's okay. That's actually okay. I want to offer you a reframe. Because I think we've been looking at this wrong. This disconnection you feel, it's not a sign that something is broken. It's a sign that you've outgrown certain environments. And outgrowing something is not the same as failing it. The fact that you feel behind, that you can't connect like others seem to, that you carry thoughts too heavy for most conversations, those aren't weaknesses. They're signs of a mind that has been doing the harder work, asking the harder questions, sitting with the harder truths. Your depth is not a problem. The world simply hasn't caught up with where you are yet. And that is profoundly, painfully lonely sometimes. But it is not a life sentence. It is a season. The people who see what others miss, who feel the weight of things that others walk past, they are not broken. They are built for deeper waters, and deeper waters eventually find the right companions. So if you've sat in rooms full of people and felt completely alone, I want you to know that the feeling is real. And it's not evidence that you're broken, it's evidence that you're looking for something real. In a world that often isn't. Maybe your people are out there. Maybe you're still becoming the version of yourself that will find them. Either way, this phase, as difficult as it is not the end of the story. It's the middle. And the middle is always harder than the end. You're not too much. You're just in the wrong room. Keep walking.